Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the SimNFL show. Real talk about fake sports. I am your host and commissioner. You can call me Pierce. We have reached the halfway point of the 2025 SimNFL season here in week 9. So we're going to discuss all of the results from this week's game. If you're unfamiliar with simulation sports, come check us out on the website or on Discord. We would love to have you. So as I mentioned, we're going to cover stats and summaries from all of our games. It was a very exciting week. There were 4 leads of double digits erased in the fourth quarter this week. We'll cover all of that and more in our summaries. And then we will conclude with my choices for players of the week on offense and defense. We'll do a quick injury update, check in on the current standings. And then today's feature, we're going to revisit Pierce's tiers, where I rank all of the teams in the league using my own esoteric grouping system. And then we will preview the upcoming Week 10 games. So thank you for coming along with us, and let's get started. It was a very exciting game on Thursday night between the Chiefs and the Eagles, featuring lots of offense, lots of scoring. Philadelphia actually scored on their first 4 drives of the game, taking an early 24-7 lead. But the Chiefs responded. Joseph Valenzuela found King Angeles for a 51-yard gain through the air, and then later threw to tight end Louis Van Slyke for a 6-yard touchdown, bringing the lead to 10. Later in the third quarter, again, it was Valenzuela, this time to Michael Walker for a 56-yard bomb, setting off Rodolfo Chavez for a 4-yard touchdown. That cut the lead to 3 at 24-21. Kansas City then got a defensive stop, and with all the momentum, it looked like they could be set up to take their first lead. But Valenzuela was picked off by Philadelphia corner John Robinson to end that drive, and the Eagles turned that big play into an also-deck touchdown run from 8 yards out to re-extend that lead. Then KC got the ball back, and on the first play, Chad Dolis fumbled, coughed it up to the Eagles, recovered by Mark Soto. 4 plays later, Philadelphia celebrated its first pool party of the day. Another big touchdown that made it 38-21. So the Chiefs got it within 3, and then within 3 minutes of game time, we had 2 Chief turnovers and 2 Eagles touchdowns, making it all the way back to 17-point lead. Kansas City in the fourth quarter drove all the way down to the Eagles' 4-yard line, looking to close the gap again, but a third Valenzuela interception, this one to Christian Pilardi, was the dagger there. So kept the Chiefs from scoring with about 7 minutes to go, and Eagles were able to walk it out from there. So 38-21 is the final score there. Big day for the Eagles' front 7. Michael Cuevas with 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a fumble, and a recovery. Mark Soto with a pair of sacks and a fumble as well, forced fumble, I mean. And then Whit Wilson, defensive end, had 3 more sacks, giving the Eagles 7 for the team. Also picked off Valenzuela 3 times in the win. It was a wild and error-prone game between the Ravens and the Steelers in this AFC North battle. Started with Pittsburgh missing a field goal on its first drive, and then getting another chance when they picked off David Chop for the first time. Made it from 27 yards out, take the early 3-0 lead. Chop and Baltimore responded with a 9-play drive, including a conversion on 4th and 8, with Chop finding Edwin Garcia for a 12-yard conversion. Found Garcia again a few plays later, 32 yards for the touchdown. Missed the extra point. Ravens had the early lead 6-3. In the second quarter, it was Morris being intercepted by Baltimore. They returned it all the way to the Steelers' 21-yard line. Chop needed only 1 play to run it in from there and extend the lead to 10. In the third quarter now, DeAndre, don't forget to eat your Wheaters, fumbles for the Steelers on the first play of the half. So Steelers got the second half kickoff, immediately fumbled it away. David Chop then found Del Murphy for a 5-yard touchdown, and just like that, it was 23-3. But the Steelers weren't done. Later in the third, Morris ran it in from 12 yards out to get the Steelers' first touchdown on the board. And then in the fourth quarter, got a touchdown run from Danny Kipnis from 6 yards. and then got the ball back again. Morris had a breakaway for a 40-yard run, and then an 18-yard touchdown run. They missed the extra point, though, so that left it tied at 23. So the Ravens built a 20-point lead. The Steelers completely eliminated it in less than 15 minutes of game time. With 3 touchdowns in between, the Ravens could only muster 2 first downs. So all the momentum seemed to be going the Steelers' way, even with the mixed extra point. But then Baltimore put together an 11-play drive with the assistance of a defensive pass interference call. And that got them into field goal range, where they kicked a 35-yarder with under 3 minutes to go to break the tie, get back into the lead at 26-23. Pittsburgh had 4 plays, failed to gain a first down, turned the ball over on downs, looked like it was completely over, Baltimore having the lead and the ball in Steeler territory. Chop took the ball, went for a pass, threw an interception, so suddenly the Steelers might still be alive. Morris immediately threw an interception as well, and that was the end of things. So 3 change of possession plays consecutively, 4th down, turnover on downs, interception, for a wild end to a very close game. Steelers erased a 20-point lead, but ultimately still fell on the late field goal. 5 combined interceptions between David Chop and Robert Morris. Morris, though, did have 150 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground. But it is the Ravens who come away with the big division win here. Another game that seemed well out of reach and then became close at the end, that was Jacksonville and Arizona. There was no scoring until the second quarter. Arizona running back, and the first score was not Gesicki, it was Darren Albers breaking away for a 34-yard touchdown run. Arizona had good field position after a good punt return, and then Albers scored the touchdown, missed the extra point, so it was 6-0. Koch had a chance to extend that lead and make up for the miss, but he missed a 44-yard field goal later in the second quarter, so it stayed 6-0. And then after halftime, Jacksonville finally got on the board with a field goal of their own, and then Koch missed another one from 43 yards out. So Arizona was up 6-3 at that point, but had left 7 points on the board from missed kicks. But in the third quarter, later, they put together a 69-yard drive in 9 plays, ended with Gesicki getting into the end zone from 16 yards out. The lead was 13-3. But Matt Howard finally started hitting his receivers. 31 yards to Ronnie Ritter on the next drive, 34 yards to Jake Bolden. That set up a Ryan Peterson 1-yard touchdown plunge. And just like that, Arizona's lead was down to 13-10. But after a trade of punts, Gesicki scored again, this time from 32 yards out, 3rd rushing touchdown of the day for the Cardinals team. And that made it 20-10 with under 6 minutes to go. But Ray Thompson returned the ensuing kickoff all the way to the Jacksonville 45-yard line. Jacksonville then ran 5 plays, all of them runs, ending with Peterson finding the end zone from 26 yards out to bring the Jaguars within 20-17. Arizona went 3 and out. Jacksonville got the ball back, and on the first play of their next drive, a screen past Peterson where he ducked and weaved and outraced everyone to the end zone, a 62-yard catch and run. Jacksonville taking the lead 24-20. Arizona didn't have much time when they got the ball back. Patrick Johnson did find Jake Greenberg for a 28-yard gain, getting the ball to the middle of the field. But then the next 4 plays could not produce a first down. There was a big sack on 2nd down, then a short completion, and then an incompletion on 4th down to end the game. So Jacksonville down most of the game, but able to put together a couple of key touchdowns when it mattered most, with big plays on offense and special teams. Ryan Peterson, definitely the hero of the day, 260 total yards from scrimmage, and all 3 touchdowns. Arizona left 4 points short, particularly rough after Mike Koch misses an extra point and 2 field goals that could have made the difference in this one. We are only just getting started, though, with the crazy comebacks because the Vikings and the Bears had a wild game. Chicago scored on their very first drive. Lewis finding Richard McGuire for a 40-yard touchdown pass in the early 7-0 lead. Minnesota drove down to the Bears 13, but Sinek threw an interception to Gary Lindblad, which ended that drive. Minnesota would not get on the board until the very end of the first half when they kicked a 53-yard field goal as time expired. And then the third quarter, they missed a second chance field goal from 32 yards out, so it was still 7-3. And it was like that halfway through the fourth quarter, but the crowd who stuck around ended up getting their money's worth after all. In the final 8 minutes and 30 seconds of this game, 33 points were scored. And here's how it went down. Christian Sinek found Joseph Jones for a 44-yard bomb. Then Ibach carried it in from 9 yards out. Vikings took the lead for the first time 10-7. Chicago only needed 2 plays from scrimmage to get back on top. That's because Pat Flexen took an RPO inside handoff and busted it wide open, 54 yards to the house, 14-10 lead for the Bears. Minnesota had to punt. Flexen returned the punt back to the Minnesota 44, and then took it himself, 1 play from scrimmage, breaking it 44 yards for the touchdown, found it, took it to the house again. It was 21-10 Bears with 5:16 to go. At that point, Bears had struck quickly twice. But Minnesota got the ball back. First play from scrimmage. Aldrich, you know he's going to break one eventually. 57-yard run, putting them in range for another Ibach touchdown run, this time from 3 yards out. They missed the 2-point conversion attempt, so it was 21-16. Bears still leading at that point. 3:05 left. Bears get the ball. 3 and out, but they run off some clock. So there's only a minute 20 left for the Vikings when they get the ball back. And then Sinek went off. 28-yard completion to George Boone, 19 yards to Joseph Jones, 15 yards to Jones again, and then finally 7-yard completion in the end zone to James Ibach with 3 seconds left on the clock. Didn't get the 2-point conversion there either, but it didn't matter. They kicked off and the game was over. Vikings, crazy come from behind victory in the last 5 minutes to edge the Bears 22-21. Ibach scoring all 3 Vikings touchdowns. Only 63 total yards from scrimmage, but 3 scores. Joseph Jones added 177 yards on 8 catches. Phenomenal day for Pat Flexen as well. 148 yards rushing on just 17 attempts with those 2 breakaway touchdown runs. But at the end, it was the Vikings who came back at the end and won it at the last second. If you thought we were done with the crazy endings, we were not, because the Jets and the Bills played on Sunday night. The Jets trotted out Andrew Michael as their starting quarterback, undrafted free agent out of Colorado State. The Bills started with Asensio, but he got injured after throwing a couple of picks, and Wayne Murray took over. So a very interesting quarterback lineup in this one. The Jets got an early interception from Matthew Beal, which set up their first touchdown, which was actually fullback Michael Elias rushing in from 4 yards out for the early 7-3 lead. In the second quarter, they extended that lead. Rookie Andrew Michael finding fellow rookie Will Huber for a 22-yard touchdown pass. That made it 14-3 in the Jets' favor. It was 17-6 in the fourth quarter. Bills had been unable to get anything going with either of their quarterbacks when Alvin Anan of the Bills defense said, "I'll do it myself," picked off a pass in the flat and took it to the house for a pick 6. Bills threw in the 2-point conversion as well, and just like that, it was a 3-point game. The Jets then went 3 and out. Bills got the ball back. J.C. Lacey took over. 60-yard run from the scrimmage on the first play. Got them into the red zone. And then Wayne Murray converted a crucial 3rd and 7 when he found tight end Joshua Wingetter. I'm not kidding, his name is Wingetter, for a 17-yard conversion, and later Murray to Donald Kelly for a 4-yard touchdown pass, giving the Bills their first lead with 2 minutes to go. Michael had a tough hill to climb trying to get back. He did find Hayes Edwards for a 20-yard gain on the first play of the final drive, but then 4 straight incompletions meant that the Bills would escape with the victory. So yet another double-digit margin goes down in the final period as the Bills come back and win it. Wayne Murray completed 2/3 of his passes in relief of Asensio, 169 yards and a touchdown, including 89 yards to Donald Kelly. And of course, Alvin Anand with the big day, a couple of passes defended, and the big pick 6, which changed the entire momentum of the game. I do got to say, though, for an undrafted free agent rookie quarterback, Michael did not have a terrible day. 122 yards, a touchdown, a pick, 15 carries, 125 yards for the young man. So impressive performance by Michael in this one. Then on Monday night, we had a big cat battle between the Bengals and the Panthers. This one started out fast. The Bengals blocked a punt early in the first quarter, and then immediately David Taylor ran in a touchdown from 40 yards out, giving the Bengals the early lead. The Panthers would respond. 9-play drive, ending with Link finding Fernando Owens. There had been a sack previously, so it was 3rd and goal from the 13. But Lincoln Owens connected for the touchdown and big conversion, tying the game. In the second quarter, Donald Gurevich threw his first interception of the game. That one was intercepted by Andrej Harris, who returned it to the Cincinnati 20-yard line. And then in a single play, Kelvin Dupree took it from there, rushing it in for the touchdown and the Carolina lead. Later, still in the second, Gurevich threw another interception, again to Harris, but Link gave it right back on an interception to Cincinnati free safety Richard Surgis. Cincinnati promptly fumbled it right back. So in 8 plays, we saw 3 turnovers, and the whole sequence ended with a Panthers missed field goal. So absolute comedy of errors to finish out the half. It was still close well into the third. It was 14-13 when Gurevich threw his 3rd interception of the day. Link followed up, hitting Russell Barnes for a 9-yard touchdown. Panthers extended their lead. But Cincinnati wasn't done. David Taylor ripped off a 56-yard run on the next drive, ended with Gurevich finding Antonio Campaverde for an 8-yard touchdown. And they added the 2-point conversion, and it was tied at 21. Cincinnati then got a stop and drove to the Carolina 33-yard line, looking to take the lead. But a critical sack kept that drive out of field goal distance. Bengals got no points from it. So Carolina took over and put together their best drive of the game, a 12-play, 80-yard marathon down the field, ending with Kelvin Dupree finding the end zone for the second time from 8 yards out. That gave them the 28-21 lead. Then their defense took over, forced the Bengals into a 3-and-out, and then they added on to it with special teams by blocking a punt of their own, giving them a short field and ultimately a field goal attempt, which they made for a little insurance. And they wound up with a 10-point victory. 31-21 was the final there. Link 330 yards and a pair of touchdowns, and Kelvin Dupree 190 yards from scrimmage on 28 touches. Andrej Harris again with those 2 critical interceptions, 3 total for Gurevich on the day. Great effort, though, from David Taylor, 198 yards and a touchdown on just 17 touches. But ultimately, it was the Panthers who had the better staying power, were able to pull away in the final quarter and win this one. As for the rest of our Week 9 scoreboard, Denver steamrolled the Browns 41-16. Hugh Kahn had 175 yards rushing. Peter London added 144 of his own. And London had 3 total touchdowns on the day as well for the big win. Green Bay defeated Detroit 33-6. Garibay was 31 of 37, 317 yards and 3 touchdowns. Also, the Packers defense held Tanner Lake and Richard Bianchi combined to -6 yards on 11 combined rushes. Tampa Bay and New Orleans was a tight defensive contest. The only touchdown was scored with about 6 minutes left in the game. Running back Chris Williams broke it for a 21-yard touchdown run. So only and pivotal touchdown in that one to give the Buccaneers the big win. Houston hung with Miami for the better part of 2 quarters before Miami pulled away in the second half. Greg Sellers was outstanding, 198 yards and 3 touchdowns on 17 carries. Although for Houston, Travis Neal and Ryan Johnson combined carried 51 times for 320 rushing yards. So great 1-2 combo, doing great things on the ground there for the Texans. Las Vegas picked off Lamar Johnson 5 times en route to a 24-9 victory over the Giants. Great defensive performance there. Washington almost doubled up Dallas, 45-23 was the final there. Stephen Tabbert adding to a great season with 4 rushing touchdowns in that game. The Rams dominated San Francisco 54-10. Philip Avila 31 of 38, 414 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. And then a big performance from Seattle, beating Tennessee 31-6. Clayton McGee having a solid game, 161 yards and 2 scores for the Seahawks in their win. So, with all of those results in and summaries posted, here are my selections for the Players of the Week. Shout out to Peter London of Denver, 17 of 19 to get those 144 yards through the air. Also 9 carries to get another 144 and a touchdown on the ground. Ryan Peterson, as I mentioned, 260 yards total and 3 touchdowns from him from Jacksonville. Sellers, 198 yards and a trio of touchdowns, all on the ground for Miami. And then James LeClaire getting his opportunity due to an injury to Anthony Larry for the Rams. He stepped in and did not miss a beat. 15 catches, 248 yards, and a touchdown for the Rams. On the defensive side, Michael Cuevas for the Eagles with 4 TFLs, a couple sacks, fumble, and a recovery. Jose Sola for Tennessee, 5 tackles for loss and 3 sacks. Alvin Anan for the Bills with that huge pick 6, very pivotal in that game. And then Andrej Harris with a pair of interceptions for the Panthers. So congratulations to those 8 players on being named the Commissioner's Choice for Players of the Week for Week 9. So the pipe was out in full force last week to the point where I didn't even copy everything down. I'm just pasting this straight off the interface. The downside here is that we don't have the overalls and experience, but it does save me a little time. The big ones that are new for this week, Arthur Mejia of the Dolphins out for 8 weeks with that triceps tear. Now for the Dolphins, this could mean that he is back for the playoffs. But given that there are 9 weeks left in the regular season, some of these big numbers, if these teams don't have postseason play, these guys are effectively out for the year. So Mejia might be back for the playoffs, but that's going to be a long recovery for him from that triceps tear. Lee Kaiser, cornerback for the Texans, essentially out for the year with that groin tear. That's going to take the rest of the regular season to heal. Cowboys, nothing new, but still dealing with that trio of injuries. Othan Robertson and DeWitt all out for extended periods of time. And then Anthony Larry, as I mentioned, for the Rams, only out 1 more week. But definitely interesting to see what those bench players can do there. Oh, Reggie Newton, that's the other one I missed. The other significant injury. Vikings finally getting their offensive skill players back, but still having some bad injury luck. Newton being out most of the rest of the regular season with that calf tear. So we will monitor these situations as they develop, but obviously wishing all these players a speedy recovery. So here is where we sit at the halfway point of the season. 9 weeks in, 9 to go. Obviously some bye weeks still sprinkled here and there. But in the AFC, dominance still from the Dolphins, who have yet to have a game closer than 12 points, opening up a 4-game lead over the Bills. Losses from the top 3 in the AFC North this week, so the Browns still holding on that 1.5 game lead. over the Bengals and Steelers, who are now below 500. Big game coming up next week between the Browns and Bengals, which we'll talk about in a little bit. AFC South continues to be very close with 4 very quality teams. Titans are at 6-3, just ahead of the Jaguars, and the Colts and Texans are not far behind. In the AFC West, Denver's still in first at 7-2, but you got the Raiders right there at 6-3, and then the Chargers not far behind at 5-3 as well. So a lot of strong teams in the AFC, both in the top tier and in kind of that upper mid tier. So still a lot of great football left to be played. On the NFC side, we've got one close race. That's in the NFC South, with the Panthers ahead of the Falcons by a game, 7-1 versus 6-2 there. Everyone else has opened up some pretty big leads. 4-game lead for Washington, now with that head-to-head victory over the Cowboys, putting the Cowboys to 4-5, tied with the Eagles. Green Bay still 3.5 games up on the Bears and Lions in the North. And then LA has also opened up a 3.5 game lead over, that would be actually Seattle in second at 4-4, and then Cardinals and 49ers behind them. So a bit more division in the NFC in terms of the haves and have-nots. Still, as I said, a lot of football left to be played, in particular for those wild card spots. Atlanta looking like they're in good shape, but 2 more teams claiming those wild card spots. So a lot of teams still in the hunt and could be in the hunt well into the end of the season. So that brings us to our special segment tonight, and I am excited to be bringing back Pierce's Tiers. So for those unfamiliar, this is where I take all 32 NFL teams and I put them into various idiosyncratic tiers based on my own likings and observations. I do want to note that while these are generally in order of teams getting better over time as we go bottom up, the tiers are very esoteric and they're very thematic. So you might see a team nudged up or down because they have things in common with other teams in those tiers. So not to be taken overly seriously, I do put some thought into this, but don't get worried if you think your team seems in an odd place or has some odd bedfellows in their tier. But enough explanations, let's get into it. Starting with the bottom with the race to the number 1 pick. We have the 49ers, Patriots, and Jets, all 1-win teams in possession currently of their first-round pick next year. Currently, the Niners have played 1 more game, so they have 1 more loss. At 1-8, they are currently in possession of the number 1 pick. Patriots and Jets are right behind them at 1-7. Strength of schedule being the difference in that one. So we will see what develops. Obviously, Patriots and Jets have at least 1 more head-to-head game coming, which will be a big one there. But yeah, these teams are playing for next season. They should be scouting out the quarterbacks, and making a long-term plan, either to make a big splash in the draft or sell the pick for a king's ransom, whatever their play is. These guys are looking ahead to next year, but they have the picks to do it. Saints have traded their first-round pick, which is why they're not in that echelon. But they are in the next one, which is, hey, end zone's that way. These teams and the ones below it, all averaging below 20 points per game. It's not really going to get it done in the NFL. So Saints obviously rolling with their rookie quarterback, and I do love Okoye Landrum. I think he's going to be a fantastic player. But some bumps and bruises with a rookie quarterback. Tampa Bay getting it done on the ground and with defense. So having some success, getting some wins in there, not putting up a lot of points. Chiefs rolling with Valenzuela, who has impressed me, but still in the mid-60s as a prime age quarterback. And then Minnesota, who's had just terrible injury luck with Sinnott going down, then coming back, but without Ibach. Now they're both back on the field, both trying to help right the ship. But the Vikings have put themselves in a pretty big hole offensively. See how they dig themselves out through the remainder of the season. Next here up, let's talk about some moral victories. NFL is all about wins and losses and what have you done for me lately. But I do have to shout out these two teams who are near the bottom, or pretty much at the bottom, of a lot of team rankings at the start of the year, and have put together some solid games. Arizona's 3-6. Texans are 4-5. Again, Texans with a very young roster that is still developing. They'll have that great one-two punch rushing. Arizona suffering from inconsistent management and now on the right track with a staff in place looking to improve. These are two teams where I would say close games are moral victories, and they're doing a lot to impress. And I'm excited to see how these teams rebound and rebuild in the coming years. Moving on up, teams going in the opposite direction. We have some teams who are fading fast. We've got the Bears, who are on a 3-game losing streak. The Steelers are on a 4-game losing streak. Detroit has snapped theirs, but they did early on have a 4-game losing streak after an early win. So all these teams kind of behind the 8 ball had a really tough stretch of games. And part of that could be, strength of schedule. But definitely have put themselves in a tough place with a stretch of losses, and are going to need to see what they can do to reverse course, get back in the win column. Right here in the very middle, we have our drama queens. These are our teams who are highest in the heart rate index, which will also be making another reappearance in the future, where I track all the closest games of the year. Giants have cooled off a little bit since their very dramatic start, but they still have the most close games among all teams so far this season. Bengals are not far behind. Ravens have finally shown they can win close games with that startling comeback victory over the Steelers. But these are the three teams, love them or hate them, win them or lose, they're going to have interesting, exciting games that are going to go down to the wire. Moving on up. So you're saying there's a chance. These 4 teams are right about at the mid-level, hovering around 500, but based on their current seeding, could absolutely make a push for a playoff spot. So there is absolutely a chance. Buffalo and Indianapolis are both 500. They are currently tied for the 8th seed. So first, they would both be out if the playoffs started today, but they are right there in the hunt, and they are not far behind, at least as far as wins and losses go. So there is a chance for both of these teams if they can string together some wins, get lucky on strength of schedule. Saying there's a chance. And then for Dallas and Philadelphia, they're actually tied for the 7th seed right now in the NFC. Playoffs today, Dallas would be in as a 7th seed, even at 4-5. And the Eagles are right there tied with them as well. So 2 other teams that have had some bad injury luck, bad game luck, things not going their way, but definitely still in the hunt and could still turn things around if they get hot at the right time. On up we go. We have history in the making for 2 franchises that could be on their way to their best years ever. Atlanta has already tied their season high for wins at 6. They're 6-2 already. Seattle is currently 4-4. Their season high is 5. So they were just a game away from matching their best season yet. So Jeremiah West for the Seahawks and Jose Padilla for the Falcons, helping them get over the hump and get to new highs. So excited to see how far those 2 teams can take these historic seasons. Moving on up, it is getting crowded in here. AFC, as I said, has some great top teams, but also has a solid core of mid to upper tier teams. So what you're looking at right now would be the 4 through 7 seeds in the AFC. You have the Browns just leading their division, and then you have the best 3 wild cards, the non-division leaders, in the Raiders, Chargers, and Jaguars. So any games between these teams are going to be vitally important, not just for record, but for potential head-to-head tiebreakers, things like that. There is technically enough room in the playoffs for all four of these teams, again, because Cleveland's currently leading their division, so they could be a division winner. The other three would be the wild cards. It's getting very crowded there in the AFC with these like 5-win teams. Teams that could, again, make a push if they get hot, stay in the playoff run, and more even, or could fall off if they get cold and run into a spate of powerful late teams. So very crowded in the AFC, especially with these four. Every game matters, and every game between them doubly so. 3 teams, I say check your mirrors. So these teams are leading their divisions, but it is not at all set in stone. They've got teams 1 game back from them, as good as they are. So the Panthers, trying to keep ahead of the Falcons in the South. Broncos, again, with the Raiders, as we saw in the standings, and then the Titans with the Jaguars. So 3 teams that are currently front-runners in their divisions, but look in your rearview mirror. Those other teams are closer than they might appear. Can't let off the gas, to continue the metaphor. But control their own destiny, keep winning, keep doing your thing, and you'll find yourself in a good place. Meanwhile, these 3 teams have said, nah, eat my dust, I'm gone. Huge leads for all of these NFC teams in their divisions. So look to be well on their way to capturing division titles and playoff berths. Obviously, a lot of football left to be played, 8 or 9 games, depending on your bye week. But 3 strong performers looking to keep pace in the NFC, but also as former division winners, will be having games against each other, which could be vitally important as well. We saw Green Bay and Washington. LA and Washington are about to play this week in a premier matchup, so keep a close eye on these teams when they go head-to-head, because again, just like the tiers below them, those could be really, really important matchups come playoff time. And that's 31 teams, which means there's only 1 team left, and they continue to get their own tier to themselves. That's the undefeated tier, and it belongs to the Miami Dolphins. 8-0, no close games, no one-score games. They show up, they win, they leave. They've done it 8 weeks in a row, and they're not moving down until someone can knock them down. So, those are my lists for Pierce's tiers for week 9. Hope you enjoyed. Feel free to leave your feedback in the comments. So with all that said, here's what's coming up ahead for week 10. We start things off on Thursday night with Detroit going to Atlanta to play the 6-2 Falcons. Again, Falcons looking for that historic 7th win, which would make it officially their best season ever. In the early slot on Monday, we have our first Battle of Ohio with Cincinnati going to Cleveland to play the Browns. A Cincinnati win would put them just a half game behind and in ownership of the tiebreaker. A Browns win would increase that division lead. So huge game for both of those teams and their playoff hopes. But the marquee matchup next week is absolutely the Rams at Washington. As I said, 8-1 at 8-1. 2 of the premier teams in the conference going head-to-head. Division winners last year, potentially this year. 2 absolutely dynamic offenses. Can't say enough about how excited I am to see that game. In the afternoon, we have Dallas going to LA to face the 5-3 Chargers. Again, 2 teams still very much alive and jockeying for position in their respective conferences. And then the undefeated Dolphins are going to go on the road to Chicago to face the 3-5 Bears. On Sunday night, we have Jacksonville at Tennessee, another big division matchup that could bring 2 teams very close together, or could give Tennessee extra breathing room in that division chase. And then we wrap things up on Monday night with a similar story, this time in the AFC West, with the Raiders going to Denver to face the 7-2 Denver Broncos. So that is the slate for Week 10. Some excellent matchups between conference and division foes. Hope you will stay tuned for all of that. But that is everything I have today for this edition of the SimNFL Show. Thank you so much for stopping by and listening. And as I say to all of our users in all of our sims, good luck and have fun.